So I had a bunch of recommendations on how to neutralize rust in the floor of the car. I was asking and watching some videos on YouTube, and one of my buddies, Duddy's Adventure, was actually neutralizing the rust on a Dodge frame, a Dodge truck frame. He's converting it from a two-wheel drive to a four-wheel drive, and I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. And then he recommended Decent Garage on how to do it correctly. So I went to Decent Garage and checked out his video. Pretty nice. They did the underside of a Jeep body basically. And then I saw some other videos. So what they were recommending, or what they were using, was this. It's called Corroseal. So basically you brush this stuff over your rusty areas like frame or chassis or floorboards, and then you'll see the rust kind of turn, or the chemical in the rust turn like a purplish color, and then it'll turn black, and basically it's neutralized at that point, and then you don't even have to primer it, you could just paint over it. So I thought that looks pretty cool. This cost $48.95. Brushes cost $7.99. A 12-pack of mixing cups cost $11.96. 6 rolls of masking tape, $19.99. Masking paper, $6.49. An 18-piece of wire wheels for $18.99. Tax was $10.01. Total cost was $124.38. So not too terribly expensive. So anyway, we're probably not gonna do it today, but gonna get in there and wire wheel a little bit of the rust just to get the scaly stuff up. Again, you don't want to get all the rust completely off to where you have bare metal, because then this doesn't do anything to bare metal. It basically needs the rust in order to have the chemical reaction and become, create a neutralized state of the rust. Alright, I thought this was cool to share. I just popped this door panel off the driver's side, and it's got this stamp right here with the date on it. So it says Chrysler Corporation, September 12th, 1967. So this car was manufactured, well, this door panel was manufactured in September of 1967. Show you how early these cars were started. I believe August was actually when they started. So, let's say Lyons Trim Plant 4098, Lyons, Michigan. Pretty cool. This is the door panel to the passenger side, the first one I took off. Thought I'd look at the date on this one too. And it says September 13th, 1967. So this one's actually built a day after that one. Kind of neat. Alright, so something else worth noting, or what I noticed is, man, and I just can't remember. I've had a bunch of second-gen Chargers, and I never really paid much attention to the back seat belts. So I don't know if they actually had a seat belt for the middle and the back, like for a kid, or if it's always just been 2 sets of seat belts. But I can tell you for this 68, it's got 2 sets of seat belts. So even though you could put 3 people across the back seat, there's only belts for 2. So I guess it's the job of the guys on the outside to hold the person in the middle in the event of an accident. So anyway, and I don't think this has been, I mean, I think this is all original. I don't think these have ever been out. However, full disclosure, the back seat that was in this car was black, so at some point somebody did pull the seats out and the original seats are long gone. So we now have, you know, there's a possibility that they decided to take the center small seat belts out. I'm not sure, but at any rate, here's something else that's kind of cool. The original tag's still here on the seat belt. I'm gonna assume that 1967, it means these were made in 1967. You know, I don't know about the 3. Does that mean it's March? If it is, that's pretty that's pretty far ahead of when the car was actually built, which would have been more towards the late of 1967. So I don't know if anybody knows anything about these dates on the seatbelt. Be sure you say something in the comments. I find all that stuff kind of interesting. But anyway, at any rate, and this one's the same. So something else I just saw and noticed was, it looks like a wax pencil number 3 is right there on the passenger wheel tub. I don't see anything on, oh wait, is that what is that? Might have been one there. I'm not sure if that's just like a scrape or something. I don't really see nothing there. I saw something. Oh, I don't know what these mean, but it's like a 1 and an 8. Let's see. There's some over here too. I don't know what those are. Maybe a 9, a 1, a 0. No idea. Anyway, back to what I was doing. I'm going to vacuum up everything in here, get it all clean, and then I'm going to put that rust converter on it. All these especially scaly areas, you know. I was just hitting it lightly with the wire wheel just to break off the scale. I'm not trying to remove the rust because you want to have rust on it for the conversion to take place. And then once we get all that done, we'll go on to the next step. Alright, so probably gonna look at this video when I put everything back together. Pretty explanatory. This goes towards the floor, and this would be facing down. So here's a little tidbit I thought I would mention. If you have a B-body, or I think any Mopar actually, if it's a bench seat car, you're going to have the holes like this. There's reinforcement on the other side of the floor underneath the car. It adds strength, so when the seat, let me go underneath. See these brackets that are welded in? That adds strength to the seats so they don't tear through the floor. Now you can see on the inside, on the bottom of the car, if you have bucket seats, there's no brace on this side. It's actually up here on the inside, there and there. So if you have a bench seat car and you put bucket seats into it, those plates are not there. So you need to add reinforcement plates. If you don't, as you're driving the car, the weight of the seat and the passenger or the driver beating on the floor, it's going to tear the sheet metal. So if you go from a bench seat car to a bucket seat car, make sure you add some plates to reinforce it. Okay, this is the Choroseal. This is the bottle. So basically it says to stir till it's nice and white and creamy and even, which I did like Duddy's Adventure, and I just shook the shit out of the bottle first. Then it says to apply it, and what I've seen in all the videos is the rust starts to turn like a purple color. Get this out of the way. And when it turns black, that's the rust being converted. So you know what this stuff smells like? Remember in elementary school what the white glue smelled like? That's kind of what this smells like. Not bad. Not a bad smell, in my opinion. So there is a rust hole, unfortunately, right here in the floor, but we're gonna live with it because I'm not replacing floors. Maybe 20 years, 30 years from now, or you know, the next generation restores this car, they can do it. It's all the seam seals always breaking loose. So it said if it turns gray, it's contamination, and you have to remove the Corroseal and repair or retreat the area to remove the contamination and then retreat it. I'm not seeing any gray so far. It's all pretty much just been purple and white. So it says to use lacquer thinner for cleaning up once this stuff is dried, or soap and water while it's wet. And then it says it has to cure for at least 24 hours before you put any top coat. So won't be able to do this until late, or put any kind of top coat on it till late tomorrow. So there's the passenger side. So you didn't hurt the paint any. And then where you see it's black, that was all rust. It's been converted. I'm working on the driver's side right now. You can see how it's all turning kind of a purplish color. So up front is where it was kind of crusty. That's turning all purple now, and it's going to be turning black pretty soon. I went ahead and hit some of the like this ring around the floor and the brackets because they're kind of rusty and crusty. All right, so I went over the most crustiest areas with a second coat. Let's see, they're pretty easy to find because they're either black or purple. So looks like it's doing its thing. And all right, so next I'm going to move over to the trunk, which is probably the worst of the car. Alright, ran the wire wheel across the floors. There is some holes. You can see right there. Up here in the middle. There's some small ones up front. You can see how pitted the floor is up in these areas. I'm actually surprised how much blue paint is still left here. You know, the freaking floor mats, when they put the floor mats in these cars, once moisture gets in here, it gets between the floor mat and the floor is a goner. But this one fared fairly well. We're not going to worry about those holes. We don't have the time or the budget to cut the floors out. Going to go with what Freiberger always says about don't make it right, just make it run. So we've got to get this car ready for the Tucson duct tape drags. I'm going to go ahead and do the rust conversion on this stuff, so it's going to turn that surface into a primer, and then we'll put some sort of sealer over it, and we're going to call it good. And then we'll start getting into the more important stuff like suspension, brakes, drivetrain. Alright, something else the Choroseal said on the instructions was to make sure that everything is completely dry. I hosed out this car a few weeks back, so I wasn't going to go introduce any cleaners or any water or anything like that. It's going to get in between all the surfaces. It's had plenty of time to dry. It's completely dry. And we're going to start applying some of the Corroseal in here. Alright, so it's been well over an hour. Here's the trunk floor for the 68 Charger. Still see some blue. And there sure is a lot of black. You know, basically everywhere there was rust, it's converted to black. Black primer. So I think when all this fully cures, I'm going to take a rag with some thinner on it and basically clean off as much of the chemical as possible. Alright, so this is about an hour, maybe 2 hours after I put the Choroseal down on the floorboards of the 68 Charger. You can see up here where it was really rusty, it's basically turned all the rust black, so it's completely neutralized. This is now a primer type surface, so we could paint right over this. Not yet, it's still curing, but once it's fully cured, we'll be able to paint over it. And you can see in the painted areas of the car where there wasn't that much rust, or whatever rust was here, it's probably just like little spots of it. I just wanted to coat it just so we can get those little spots converted, just so it's not a new source of rusting in the future. But basically the Choroseal didn't hurt the paint in any way. And like I said, with the trunk, I'm also going to take some a wet rag with thinner on it and clean off as much of the Choroseal chemical, especially in these areas where there's no rust. I'll just go over the whole thing, you know, any chemical residual that's there, I just want to wipe it up, and then we'll be able to paint over these areas where it was really rusty. Here's the driver's side. So it looks pretty good. I mean, it's not fully cured. You can still see some purple there. There's still curing and stuff, but yeah, it looks good. I feel good about it. We'll get something to cover those areas up, and then we'll put carpet back in this and get the seats recovered and make this back into a nice Charger interior, or a decent one. Not a nice one, a decent one. Alright, this is day 2. This is what the Charger trunk floor looks like. I started to saturate an old sock with some paint thinner and rubbing it and stuff, but it's not really doing the job. So I got some like a Scotch-Brite type pad, and it's doing a better job of wiping the stuff up. This was all really like kind of just all black, so I'll film this area. I'll do a spot so you can see the blue come back. Inside the car, I also started to wipe down in here, not with the Scotch-Brite, just with the rag. And you can see all the rust has been converted to black, so it's basically a primer surface that can be painted over now. And we'll scrub it up real good with the thinner. And then I'm thinking, I was gonna coat the whole area, but I'm thinking I'm probably just gonna do the toe boards where it was rusty and leave the blue alone in the middle, not paint over it. But we'll see. Alright, just regular old paint thinner. Some thinner on this Scotch-Brite pad. Okay, you can see I'm not going to get too aggressive with it because the paint is thinner in here, and it's kind of pulling off the blue paint. You can see the original primer underneath it. So I'm just gonna, that's probably as far as I'm gonna go right there. Try to do that to the whole thing, and then put a coating over it. Alright guys, so this is the day after I put the Choroseal on. Now, as I've described in the early part of this video, the Choroseal has a chemical reaction with the rust and it converts it. It kind of turns this purplish color and then it converts the rust and it'll look black. Now this is like a primered surface that I can paint. So the Choroseal kind of leaves like a residual, I don't know, almost like a little bit of like a solvent type surface to it. So to clean that off, I took paint thinner and was rubbing the floor, basically the panel. So you can see now, when I first came out here this morning and started, this whole floor was black. The rust area, which is what we would expect where it's converting the rust, but even over the blue it was all black. So I took Scotch-Brite and paint thinner and basically rubbed everything. Now I have both green and brown Scotch-Brite. The green is a little more aggressive, and I don't know if you can really see that in the video, but it's kind of taken the paint, like the paint's already kind of thin in here, but it's taken a lot of the paint off, so you can see that looks like the primer underneath the original blue paint. But so I tried to just use it in areas where I needed more aggressive, rubbing, and then used the brown Scotch-Brite where it was already thin, or not so, I didn't need to have it so aggressive. So anyway, so it took a lot of the black Corroseal, dried Corroseal off and exposed the blue. So let me pan out here, kind of get an idea. I mean, yesterday this was just like all rust looking, looked terrible, but this doesn't look so bad. You know, so I bought some Raptor coating, which is like bed liner coating that you spray inside of a truck bed, and I was going to coat the trunk floor with it and the floorboards. But after looking at this, like, I am not opposed to how this looks. It does not, I mean, you know, the car's patinaed anyway. This isn't a restored car. It's not perfect, you know. So patina wise, the trunk floor actually kind of flows fine with the rest of the car. So I was kind of thinking, if I put like Raptor lining on here and, you know, it was all nice and black, you know, it looks new, it's almost like doesn't really go with the car. And then, you know, it's like, it's going to be textured, so you're not going to see any of the surface of the trunk floor. I mean, I'm kind of, in a way, I mean, there's holes, right? Don't get me wrong. Like, if I had the money and, you know, endless resources, I would totally take this car in and just have all this shit cut out, completely restore the car. But I don't. So I'm doing the best with what I got. And this trunk floor is in better shape than most cars fare, most 68 Chargers fare. So I'm kind of thinking, you know, I think it'd be kind of cool to show off the fact that this car still has its original trunk pan, you know, floor pan in it. And so I'm kind of thinking, you know, I'm just going to get some rattle can clear and clear all of this, so we'll keep it from rusting any further. I'm not going to put a floor mat back in it and, you know, destroy the trunk floor. And yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do about the rust holes. Maybe I'll put something cheesy like you know, like some JB Weld or some sort of epoxy, plug those holes, and then spray everything with a clear coat. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of curious what everybody else thinks. You know, if you don't mind, give me your opinion. You know, do I go ahead and put Raptor lining in there, make it all black textured and, you know, nice looking? Or do I show off the original floor pans with, you know, you can still see a lot of blue paint in there, still left in there. Do I show that off and just put a little, you know, rattle can clear coat over the top of that to protect it and, you know, preserve it a little bit longer? Anyway, give me your thoughts. All right, here's the 68 Chargers floors. So I'd already put Choroseal down. Up in here in the toe boards is where it was most rusty. You can see it's all that rust has been converted. Turns black, which is a primer surface. I just took paint thinner and I used the green and brown Scotch-Brite pads. The green one's a little more aggressive than the brown one, but even the brown one is a little bit aggressive. So for the most part, the blue paint is still intact, but doing this is not without consequences. You can kind of see back in here, the paint's really thin, you know, up in that area. And even just using the brown Scotch-Brite with thinner, a lot of the blue was kind of coming off. So it kind of thins the paint. So I think, you know, I'm still leaning towards going ahead and just spraying some clear coat in a rattle can over the top of all of this so that it's sort of like sealed. You know, we've got no rust now. It's all been converted, and where there's paint, even if the paint is thin, it'll get sealed with the clear coat. Some of this stuff, like the seam seal, broke off and exposed the metal. So putting a clear coat over it will seal that up, and I think it looks pretty good. But if you decide to do this on your own, just realize that, you know, you're not gonna save your floor and make it look perfect. I mean, I could have just concentrated the Corroseal in the areas where there's just heavy rust, but there's just like a lot of little areas with some pitting and stuff. You can see like right in here. And so I decided to coat the whole floor, so if there was any little rusty pits and stuff like that, it would get converted, which I did. I would not get too aggressive with going over everything with paint thinner, so that you don't pull too much of your original paint off of the floor. I mean, because that's still protecting the floor, what's left of it. So, like I said, I'm just going to add clear over this and protect it. And I think we're going to call it done. So, I'm pretty stoked with the results. Like I said, it's just me. Don't know if it's for you. Don't know if it's for everybody. There's the trunk floor. Very happy with this. I mean, it's crazy that there's still some blue showing because it was all rust, and then that got converted and it was all black. And then I took the thinner and Scotch-Brite and rubbed it down, and I was able to get some of the blue exposed. So we'll put clear coat over that and we'll call it done. So there I was. It was Taco Tuesday, eating a taco, and out of nowhere it just occurred to me, I think I actually learned something from Duddy's adventure that I could apply to my own Mopar project. And then I thought, nah, couldn't be. But then I thought, no, I did learn something, and I used it on my car, in this car. So yeah, take a minute, go over to Duddy's adventure and tell him Johnny Mopar learned something from you, and thanks.